Really appreciate you taking the time. My name is Vasconcelos, and some of you may know me as a fanatic for community. As an immigrant from Greece, I grew up in the back of my father's grocery stores in the Mission and the Excelsior, and that's where I learned the true meaning of community and what small business does for the community. I also ran my own business, and now I'm a small business advocate in San Francisco. For me, SOMA is very special. It's always been an exciting part of the city. It's got so many angles, great nightlife, great music, some amazing restaurants, and so much more. Hopefully this webinar will shed some light on its evolution and its future. The SOMA West Community Benefits District was established in 2019. Boundaries include Minna to Thompson and 5th to 13th Street. SOMA West is one of San Francisco's most diverse and culturally rich neighborhoods. The neighborhood holds a lot of cultural institutions such as the Filipino and the leather LGBTQ cultural districts. It has a rich history which needs to be highlighted to our residents, businesses, and community organizations. Our objective is to provide you, the participants, with an understanding of how SOMA West CBD helps with the maintenance, security, and marketing of the district. We like to highlight the key private and public institutions and organizations which represent our district. What is the cultural identity of the SOMA West community from the perspective of our panelists? And what are the challenges and future vision of the district? Now let's start the program. I'm proud to present our moderator and panelists. Our co-moderator is Adam Thompson, Program Director at Airbnb, Christian
Hello.
Martin, Executive Director of the SOMA West CBD, Joaquin Torres, Director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, Harold Hugajian, President of SOMA, South of Market Business Association, Desi Danganan, Chair of the Economic Development at SOMA Filipinas, and Bob Goldberg, President of the Leather and the LGBTQ Cultural District. And now I'll pass it off to our moderator, Adam. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Vaz. Really appreciate you putting this together along with Christian and the SOMA West CBD. Really excited to have everyone meet our great panelists. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Adam Thompson. I serve on our public policy team for Airbnb. So it's great to see a lot of familiar faces and friends. You know, SOMA is really special to Airbnb. It's the home of our first Airbnb on Rouse Street. It's home to a lot of our employees. It's home to our international headquarters. So we are incredibly lucky to be part of this neighborhood and the fabric of the community. I served on the organizing and steering committee as part of the SOMA West formation. And, you know, in great part to Alex and to James, who really spearheaded this from a volunteer perspective. They put in so much time and love and dedication to the community to bring us all together. And one of the things I love about the SOMA West CBD is it's a tremendous representation of residents, small businesses, large employers, nonprofits. The city, you know, led by Joaquin and his team to really roll up their sleeves and support us as we went through this process. So it's just you know, this is a microcosm of the great diversity of SOMA West. So really excited to jump into introductions. So first up, we get to meet Christian. He is the very first executive director and a highly sought after ED for the CBD. And so Christian, would love for you to introduce yourself. And you have a very unique scope because as our first executive director, we would love just to understand what a CBD does for folks who do not know. A lot of folks don't know what a CBD does. And secondly, just a little bit about the founding story because it was a really long process driven by residents. So would love to hear your take. And then we'll go to the rest of our panelists.
Great. Thanks, Adam. Really appreciate all the work that went into putting this together. So my name is Christian Martin. I'm the director of the SOMA West CBD. CBD stands for Community Benefit District. And what that is, they're referred to in different ways, sometimes business improvement district, special improvement district. But what it is a property-based assessment district where neighbors kind of look around and see problems that they want to hands-on way to fix. So they form these districts that essentially tax themselves, and those resources that are generated from the assessment go directly into programming that the neighborhood decides. So priority for SOMA West was clean, safe, and beautiful. And we've been working for the past 8 months or so to build our cleaning operation that provides daily street sweeping, graffiti removal. We pick up the biohazard stuff to the community. And nowadays we pick up about 40,000 pounds of trash each month. And hopefully that is making the environment cleaner, greener, and more sustainable. So the process that the founding board members sought in the beginning was took about 3 years to get things going. So that's doing the outreach, having the neighborhood meetings, doing the work to get the CBD on the ballot where it was overwhelmingly approved by the voters. So we're happy to get started, and it's been a very challenging time to start an organization, but you know, we're proud of the progress we've been able to make, and we're looking forward to building upon the foundation that we've put together. So in the near future, we're going to be expanding our programming into more safe and more beautiful, and working with the businesses, large and small, to provide the roadmap for opening up SOMA in a safe way. So thank you for having us. Thank you for being here, and I'll throw it back to Adam.
Super. And Christian has a really tough job because if I understand correctly, SOMA West CBD is the largest CBD by geographic boundary, correct?
Correct, 107 blocks.
Good luck, Christian. We're all rooting for you. We'll be there with you. Next, let's go to Joaquin Torres. Joaquin, if you could please introduce yourself, what you do, and who you represent.
Sure, thanks. And just a quick major shout out to you, Christian. I know it's not easy taking on one of the largest community benefit districts in San Francisco, especially during this time. But just for everyone who's watching, and as everyone here who's on the call knows, you are an extraordinary leader. And if there's anyone who is up to exceeding the demands of this challenge that we're in right now, it's definitely you and the vision that you bring to doing this work. He's being very modest, everyone, in terms of the level of commitment and expertise that he brings to a role like this. So we are all very lucky here in San Francisco that you've decided to make this city your home. So thank you. To you, Voss, to you, Adam, thank you. My name is Joaquin Torres, and I am the Director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. We oversee many divisions here in San Francisco, and we're busy at work right now, as we have been since the beginning of the crisis here. And the pandemic that we're experiencing all across the city, the region, the state, the nation, the globe. But one of the initiatives that we are maintaining and expanding even during this time is our Community Benefit District program. And I do want to give a special shout out to Chris Corgus, who leads that work and who always works overtime to support districts getting up and running or maintaining or sustaining their operations and dealing with the city and cutting through bureaucracy and helping to problem solve. And I know that the work that he did in terms of leading SOMA West CBD together with community to get this off the ground was a major effort with all of you who were part of that. So thank you so much, Chris, and again to all of you. You know, it's important during times like these and critical for our neighborhoods to come together and support one another. And benefit districts are an example of that work, physicalized and realized. But you always need that complement, and especially during this time, we're very proud that we've been able to launch so many programs, from grants and loans, new philanthropic efforts, specific neighborhood grants, specific community grants, specific entrepreneurship grants, because we know how important the small business community is across this city. And we also know how important it is to expedite processes that make public spaces available to our businesses when they aren't able to operate inside, that there's a place for them to go outside. And so making sure that we could support our efforts in making shared spaces a success here in the city. We've been able to deliver, just in terms of general investments across the areas that I spoke about $17.5 million to support a little over 9,300 individuals, workers and families with food security, lost wages, everything from grants to 0% interest loans with flexible terms, to food security, to wage recovery, to incentivizing workers to take advantage of our program so they can quarantine safely, to creating hotlines and accessible ways to reach people, and being present on webinars like these so that we can put a face to the names that you hear out there, and that you know that there's a way for you to get into contact with us so that the support that everyone needs in terms of clarity being the most important can be provided to all of you here. So we're very happy about that. Just a quick item there for, and we will also put this in the chat for small businesses. If you are looking for support, of course, whoever you are, you can always go to 311 to ask to be connected to this resource, and they will connect you with our office. But the general lines are 415-554-6134, and the worker hotline is 415-701-4817. Again, just call in. Someone will be available to speak with you, if not immediately, then shortly thereafter, so you can have a real person you can talk to work through some nitty-gritty issues at time, or get connected to the right people that can help you. Across the city, benefit districts have been key partners in doing this work, and I'm just very, very thankful to all of you for the continued work. It really does take a community in unity to do this work right now. Sometimes it sounds very cheesy when we say things like only together we will get through this. It's a reality. Only together will we get through this, by being sensitive to each other, by paying attention to each other's needs, and seeing where we can help out during this time. And so I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. So thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. We really appreciate your leadership. We know this is an incredibly challenging time for the city, and we're really lucky to have you in that seat to help us recover. Next, let's go to Bob, and then we'll go to Desi and Harold, and we'll get into the panel questions. And after we do a little bit of that, if you could insert your question into the chat, we'll make sure those go to the panelists. So let's go to Bob.
Hi, excuse me. I am Bob Goldfarb. I'm the president of the Leather and LGBTQ Cultural District, and we were established officially about a year and a half ago. Excuse me. The district was actually started about 10 years ago. It got in the works, and it finally came to fruition about a year and a half ago. And the leather community has been established in SOMA since the early 60s. There was a bar established in 1962 on Harrison Street, and that led to a lot of the bars and clubs being located in the SOMA district. And at the peak in 1980, there were 55 leather and LGBTQ businesses in SOMA. We now count 13. And our job and our objective is to make sure that the businesses that are there remain there, and that we become a focus for the community to invigorate the community and rebuild the businesses and SOMA as a center for leather and LGBTQ culture.
Great, thank you, Bob. And we're going to get a little bit more in depth on the other side of the history of leather and LGBT culture in SOMA. So that will come next. But let's go to Desi, and then we'll wrap up with Harold.
Hi, everyone. Desi here, representing SOMA Pilipinas, but I'm also a resident of West SOMA CBD, live off of 7th and Brandon, right across the street from Ogasian Flowers, I'm also a small business owner in the district, and I'm also an executive director of a nonprofit here in West SOMA CBD. So I am all in when it comes to this neighborhood and excited to share our story of what SOMA Filipinas is and how we're collaborating with all of our neighbors here on this panel together.
Awesome. Thank you, Desi. Harold?
My name is Harold Hugasian. I'm president of Hugasian Flowers. We are located at 7th and Brannan. We moved our business into the SOMA 20 years ago as a result of something that happened in '89 when the earthquakes came, the freeways came down, and it took a long time just to get to the freeways to go and service the rest of the city. SOMA was even before that. SOMA, I think, was established in 1988 and has represented businesses in the majority of the South Market. About 2 years ago, the Mission Bay South Beach merchants merged into us, so we basically represent all the businesses in the South Market to Mission Bay. Comments I could make about what's been going on in today's world. The best thing that happened, I think, was the city and shared spaces. It's really worked for a lot of businesses, and it's amazing how responsive that program has been. And if we could expand that to the rest of life, I think we'd be hunky-dory. What people need to know about the South of Market SOMA West CBD, and boy, I have a hard time with that SOMA West CBD. I kept saying West SOMA, but anyway, the SOMA West CBD is a fabulous vehicle for making this the neighborhood not only clean but safe and beautiful. And believe me, the clean, Christian, goes a long way toward the safe and beautiful. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. And if you haven't been to Harold's Flower Shop, he is a SOMA institution, and the best time to go is Valentine's Day every year. Harold loves that.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite day of the year.
Just kidding. Okay, let's go to the panel questions. Joaquin, thank you again for your leadership to guide the city through economic recovery. Your office has taken point to really support the small businesses, employers, residents as we're all navigating this crisis together. We would love to understand in a little bit more detail, how does OEWD work with SOMA West CBD?
Unpause him or
Sure. We have a very, thank you very much for the question. I mean, it's similar to what we've done across San Francisco in terms of supporting benefit districts across the city is what we've done in supporting community activists who have wanted to come forth and help establish a structure to create additional services and amenities for the district. And also align those with additional efforts that are happening on the ground. So the importance of the LGBT and leather cultural district, the importance of Somos Filipinas cultural district, and ensuring that we can combine those resources on the ground to serve neighborhood needs, street needs, cleaning needs, community needs. Is represented through those efforts and the technical assistance that we provide, both in terms of grant administration, access to funds, citywide coordination with services that exist on the city side, and complementing those with what can be created through assessments at benefit districts and cultural districts to supplement and enhance those activities in a cultural, neighborhood, community-specific manner. Somos Filipinas, in terms of what we've done together to create and support Undiscovered SF for anyone who was there before the pandemic and to experience those extraordinary events that brought together merchants from all across the region to participate and support culture, to supporting the weekly Folsom Street closures, through that work, to supporting the grants and public events like Up Your Alley and the Folsom Street Fair through the the Leather LGBTQ district, the Stevenson basketball court, the Copple Gardens activations, the construction mitigations for 6th Street improvement projects. It really runs the gamut in terms of how we work collectively to do this work. So we navigate the environment that we're in together, and we pull through to create resources that are accessible and beneficial to the neighborhood.
Super. That is a lot. Thank you, Joaquin. And
It's a lot.
it speaks to your amazing staff, and you guys are really, rooted in the work that happens on the ground. So thank you.
Can I add one more thing that
Sure.
Ian left out? Since the pandemic hit, OEWD has been instrumental in getting our street workers the PPE that they need to do the job every day. So that's gloves, masks, sanitizer. When everything kind of shut down and got really hard to find, OEWD stepped up in a major way, and we're very thankful for that.
We're very, Christian, thank you so much for saying that. It's in the hustle and bustle, it's hard to remember everything that we've done because we're always looking to the next thing that we can be doing. But I really want to give a shout out to Mary Ann Thompson and Chris Corgus and everyone at the Emergency Operations Center, as it was called then, that helped make that a reality, because it took a lot of pushing, and it really is reflective of neighborhood perspective, community needs, street needs, and ensuring that we are being responsive to that. So thanks, Christian.
All right. So, Bob, I think it's fair to say SOMA is an international destination, an international beacon for the leather and LGBTQ community and culture. I know you mentioned this a little bit in your introduction, but how did that come to be in SOMA? Can you share a little bit more about the community, SOMA, and the history?
Sure. In the early 60s, SOMA was largely residential and industrial, and it was working class industrial. And so it was a little bit perhaps on the gritty side. And so it was easy to get affordable spaces in that area. And also being in large part industrial, there weren't so many people who were going to complain at night about, leather guys or women going to the bars. And that sort of thing. And they weren't going to mind on Sunday afternoon that the sidewalk was lined with motorcycles. And so that's how it sort of became a focus for the community. When the toolbox initially opened there, that sort of opened the gateway, and a lot of other leather bars followed. And and then when the leather bars were there, LGBTQ clubs and other businesses, leather makers, all started locating in those industrial spaces. And it sort of reached a critical mass, if you will. And just, it was very easy to walk from one venue to another, since they were all sort of relatively closely located. And so that's how it really got started. And in time, it developed. And by 1984, there was a big push actually to redevelop the neighborhood, basically level it and put in all new construction and displace the people and the businesses that were there. That actually led to the creation of the Folsom Street Fair, or as it's now known. And this became an iconic event for the community. The event led in part to community activism that stopped that redevelopment. And as you may be aware, the Folsom Street Fair is now one of the largest single outdoor events, one-day outdoor events in the state of California, and also a focus for international visitors and the leather community in general. And so that is one of the iconic events in the neighborhood. And it's typically attended by about 400,000 people. And so that remains one of the cornerstones of the leather community worldwide. And with time and increasing rents, the community has experienced a lot of displacement, and we are hoping to counteract that.
Thank you, Bob. We're super lucky in SOMA that we not only have the leather and LGBT cultural district, but we also have SOMA Panelists, which is our second cultural district. Desi, from my understanding, Soma Pilipinas is the first Filipino cultural district to launch in the United States, which is really unique. Can you tell us more about the Filipino community's deep connection to Soma, and just some of the things that you were doing and what you hope to accomplish through the cultural district?
Sure. Yeah. Soma Pilipinas is actually one of 3 Filipino cultural districts in the nation, but we're the first one to be designated as a California cultural district. And our roots in Soma actually go back more than 100 years with one of the forefathers of the Filipino Republic, spending a lot of time in the Palace Hotel, a few months learning about American democracy. And then going into the 1920s and 30s, the first wave of Filipino immigrants were farm laborers. And when they were looking for a safe haven for housing, they actually bought a lot of property around South Park. And we worked with the city to kind of landmark some of their buildings to kind of keep it within the community, and also to ensure that their historical significance is safe for generations on. And you really start to see Soma Pilipinas and the Filipino community really galvanize around this area. In the 80s, we were a victim of economic and planning displacement. For the longest time after World War II, there was this gilded term called redevelopment, where governments would take properties away from communities of color because they were blighted, and then sell it back to developers for pennies on the dollar. The Fillmore district is one of the greatest examples of the perils of redevelopment. And when the city government during that time wanted to increase the footprint of the financial district northbound, there was Chinatown, and then there was an informal Filipino community. And that community got displaced, and then we moved out into South of Market because, like as Bob said, it was an area that was kind of welcoming for all people. And so we set up shop here. We developed grassroots organizations like United Players to really make this a much more like livable neighborhood. And then kind of fast forward today, it took a long time to get our historical designation as a cultural district, because we're missing a lot of the key assets that you would find in other Asian cultural districts like Chinatown, Japantown, or even Little Saigon, which is a corridor of small businesses to really kind of demarcate when you've entered the district, but also most importantly, act as this kind of economic platform for the community to ladder up. So, in working with OEWD, MOHCD, these city agencies have been very instrumental in investing in our strategies and really pushing our community forward and looking at new strategies to kind of turn the tide of economic displacement on its head. And so I am really happy to be partnering with OEWD and Joaquin and West SOMA CBD.
Fantastic. Thank you, Desi. And thank you for sharing the part about, the redevelopment era. I think that's it's a big part of a lot of urban cities in America, and the reason why sometimes the landscape looks different, right? So I love that I know you share that a lot in your presentations, and I think it's really educational for folks who don't know. Fantastic. Harold, you are the president of the South of Market Business Association, or SOMA. How do your merchants, how do your membership work with the CBD?
Well, we were initially exposed to it by a walk in the door by James, who I guess isn't here today, but all of you who know James know he can be really enthusiastic about this project and
persistent. Yes.
and I, as a child who was raised working at a flower stand at Union Square, gained a very strong appreciation for the importance of keeping the street clean. When the street isn't clean and there's dust on the street, it blows up and gets the flowers dirty, and that's not good. So I've been a street sweeper for years, and when James walked in the door, we calculated how many thousands of dollars a year it was going to cost me in taxes, and I said I'm in, and they got the SOMA to endorse the SOMA West CBD concept very early, and we just believe in it, and we've gone out and talked to people, but the community of business community in the South of Market, because it's so diverse and so diluted, shall I say, there isn't a commercial corridor. I mean, Folsom gets a little bit there, but there are so many businesses everywhere. We try and work with our members on their needs. We had restaurants come to us about the shared spaces, and that was just a matter of information. It got resolved so fast we didn't have to even do anything about it. But, we just believe in the business community. We believe in SOMA in the South of Market, and we've got some of James's California poppies blooming in the lot right next door to our flower shop. Actually, I had taken
That's amazing.
I took the seeds, you know, the testing facility across the street from my flower shop. I went all around the margin of it and put seeds down, but apparently progress paved them over. But we were going to have a lot of poppies there if it had come out.
That's amazing. For the audience members who don't know James Spinello, he is the board chair and really the lead organizer. You know, obviously he's been knocking on a lot of doors because everyone kind of smiles when you say James. But he has spread California poppy seeds all over SOMA West. So I think that's just speaks to what a neat person he is. Okay, so let's shift a little bit to focus on COVID-19 in terms of how folks are adapting. And there's a few audience questions coming in, so maybe we can mix up as well. And this goes out to anyone who wants to answer on the panel. You know, how have you seen businesses in the community react to COVID-19? Like, how are folks adapting? You know, what are some success stories that you've heard on the ground? Desi, Bob, or Harold?
Well, I shared spaces again. It's just been a godsend because our residents, I mean, our restaurants are suffering like crazy. I've got a tenant that's a restaurant, and boy, I'm telling you, I'm not charging them rent, but that's still, I don't think that's enough, because when you just cut businesses off completely, but the shared spaces has made a big difference.
And Director Torres, maybe for folks who don't know what shared spaces are, like maybe you can help fill the gap in terms of what it is and how you get one.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Harold, thank you for saying that out loud, that's a practice that property owners are providing to their tenants when they know there's a need right now. It's extraordinary that people like you are stepping up to really help people out because you can. There's a holistic ecosystem here that's putting people in very disadvantaged situations, small businesses, small property owners. Again, having a real strong collective approach to this work is so important. So Harold, thank you for doing that. So shared spaces, and Harold, I anytime you want me to kind of blast that out there for people that there are good actors out there, we are happy to do that. Because we need more of you, because not every property owner out there is actually taking this approach, right? Some are believing that somehow we're out of this already, and we are nowhere near being out of this. Nowhere near. That's an extreme understatement in terms of how much uncertainty still exists beyond our local control, state control. And I know it's very confusing out there for everyone. So if anyone is feeling confused, welcome. We are really in this together in terms of picking apart the pieces and changing information that's happening sometimes hourly, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, but it really does take consistent studying to know what the status of the city is right now in relationship to COVID. Shared Spaces, extraordinary program that got up and running so fast, was part of the initial conversations from the Recovery Task Force, the Economic Recovery Task Force. We knew we had to have midterm, long-term approaches to recovery, but also immediate programs that could be made available so that businesses, if they were not allowed to operate indoors, could operate outside. So those tables and chairs that you see, where permits were not provided in the past, a streamlined, fast, quick, and easy, as fast as possible way to get people to be able to have tables and chairs outside. And then also two more pieces, moving from the sidewalk into parking spots. Given that we're seeing less congestion on our streets because less people are out and about, let's make use of that. And then a step further in making sure that we could have street closures associated with shared spaces so that people could take advantage of all of that space, be able to comply with social distancing needs that we have right now, and making those spaces available so that there is still a sense of vibrancy in the city, safely, but a sense of vibrancy outside that's so important. And for us, what we keep on telling people is that when we're advocating for businesses and small businesses inside the bureaucracy, it's that every single line item of revenue matters in terms of creating that, that momentum, that hope that people need, that there is a pathway for them to do business, to pay their rent, to pay their employees, to pay their mortgage, to pay their bills, right, during this time. And so that's a constant push that we have, and shared spaces is a big part of that.
And I hope that stays
love to
after
kind of
the
build
pandemic. Go ahead, Desi. Sorry.
Yeah, I would love to build on what Joaquin is talking about with shared spaces and communities coming together more than ever now that we, as a community, even as diverse as we are, we have to band together and hold each other in this recovery. So one of the things that we're doing right now as SOMA Filipinas and as Cultivate Labs, we're partnering with West SOMA CBD, we're partnering with Livable Cities, we're partnering with several city agencies like OEWD, planning, and SFMTA to really raise the bar with shared spaces. So you're going to see, hopefully if the air quality cleans up, that we're going to be debuting the new Sunday Street SOMA, which is not going to be a 1 week event, but is going to be a weekly event all the way until about the end of October. And then on September 6th, Undiscovered comes online on top. And we're going to be bringing a farmer's market to SOMA on the blocks between 6th and 7th. And one of the things that I'm really happy to share with everybody is that we are taking the most aggressive COVID-19 measures that you'll ever see in any shared space activation or commercial corridor street closure. We're going to be doing temperature checks. We're going to have contact tracing, and we're actually going to have on-site COVID-19 testing as well.
Wow.
So we're really kind of raising the bar as a SOMA community to kind of lead our city on how do we reopen our economy safely and collaboratively, you know, as a diverse community. You know, our work is definitely grounded on helping Filipinos, but we know in the time of a pandemic, we have to help our neighbors. So you see our organization helping the SOMA businesses on Folsom Street, technically to even get around the permitting issues. A lot of these businesses are bars who technically can't serve unless there's food. So we've been working with certain bars like Decanter and pairing them up with Filipino food pop-ups so they can actually be permitted to use shared space and actually generate some revenue. So I'm really excited about the future of SOMA West CBD and our communities coming together and really kind of leaning in on our city agencies to make this possible. You know, we lost a lot of our funding from MOHCD to do our economic development work. And, you know, with the flexibility of OEWD, we were able to take a portion of a grant that was specified for another part of SOMA to make this happen. And then Christian came on board and added some more support. And, you know, together they're providing almost half of our funding to make this happen. So this is a really great example of communities coming together and really rallying around a common cause.
That is great. And that's really exciting, Desi, to see that you're, you know, really challenging the norms in terms of how we can be as safe as possible and accessible as possible, and rooted all in SOMA. So I want to go to audience questions. There's a few in the chat box, and we have about 7 minutes left, and I'm going to hand it over to Vaz before we close, just to kind of wrap up. So if we can give brief answers, and we have a few more that we would love to get to as well. This one goes to Christian. This is from Richard So from SOMA. He says, how do we as SOMA CBD residents participate in the CBD's work? What can we do every day?
Yeah, certainly we have a number of committees that cover kind of the scope of our work. So we have a streetscape and services committee that talks about, you know, our pressure washing or our, you know, graffiti removal program, what have you. We also have a neighborhood identity and marketing, and that committee is going to be kind of working to help individual businesses with their marketing, their reopening, as well as eventually marketing SOMA, West SOMA as a destination when things open back up. And we also have a public realm and streetscape that talks about street improvements, street tree planting, things of that nature that affect the public realm. And then once we kind of pass through COVID, we'll have a number of regular volunteer opportunities, be they, you know, litter pickup, street planting, flower planting, things like that to kind of get everybody involved at a level that is comfortable for them. So stay tuned, follow our website, somawestcbd.org, and we'll keep pumping out those opportunities to get involved.
Great. And this question, thank you, Christian. This question comes from Bob Walsh. He says, SOMA is highly impacted by traffic, even though the percentage of car ownership in the area is very low. How can SOMA West CBD support safe means of transportation for residents and workers in the area? Full disclosure, I work for Scoot, and our service center is located on Howard and 9th Street, smiley face. So Christian, that might be you as well, but I'm sure our esteemed panelists also might have some thoughts on that.
Sure. So, you know, that can take any matter of forms. We work with the city to, when there is a project like the upcoming Folsom Streetscape project that's coming down the pike, we kind of get involved and make sure that the businesses in the community have a voice. Generally, we are pro multimodal transportation. We are a gateway in and out of the city, in and out of downtown, so that does pose some interesting issues, but we're looking at working with SFCTA, County Transportation Authority, to look at congestion pricing and how some of those proceeds can go back into improving our streets to make them more pedestrian friendly, more bike scooter friendly, and less, you know, focused on the automobile. So it can take a number of forms, but we are kind of taking a long-term view on how we can kind of bring some balance to the transportation network.
Super. Thank you, Christian. And I'm going to wrap up with a little bit more of a fun question in terms of, since we have so many stalwarts of SOMA here, especially for Bob, Desi, and Harold. Joaquin, you're welcome to join in as well. But, you know, for folks who may not be from SOMA or folks who don't work in SOMA, what's one thing you wish folks would know about SOMA? One thing you wish they would know about the community? Or if you just want to share an example of a hidden gem, maybe you don't want folks to know about your hidden gem because then they're going to frequent it too much. But what's one thing that you really love about SOMA that makes it what it is? So let's start with Desi.
SOMA nightlife, definitely. I think SOMA really comes alive at night, and that higher vibrational state that SOMA provide, I think, is one of the secret sauces to San Francisco's innovation. You know, when you're on that dance floor grooving and in synchronicity with other people, it opens up other brain pathways that I think brings about the genius that kind of converges in South of Market. Not a lot of people talk about that, and I think that's something that should really be more promoted.
I'm with that, Desi. We need to maybe do like a shared streets dance party. So that's what I'm hearing. So application coming your way, Joaquin. Bob, how about you?
Well, I think I have to go with the nightlife also, and that is one of the things that initially drew me to that area. And so definitely the nightlife. There's a lot going on. It's a vibrant community, and I'll even throw in the beer bus on Sunday at the Eagle and the Lone Star.
Awesome. We will see you there at Eagle Plaza. Harold, what about you?
Well, being an old married man, I'm not so much into the nightlife. I'll tell you, if there's anything I could say about South of Market, I like the food. I'll tell you, Brick House pulled pork, Ted's Market sandwiches. There's two meals right there. Don Ramon's. I mean, come on. There's a lot of food, and and people have a reluctance to explore this district because of all the other, you know, maybe not so safe and beautiful concepts. But it's a great place to eat. It's a great place to eat.
And I will extend the same question to Joaquin and Christian to close us out, and then we'll take it to Vaz.
Back in the day, it was definitely the nightlife, definitely the end up. That was where I would come after long days, and certainly like Don Ramon's being an anchor in the community, long-standing legacy, if not formally, certainly informally business here in the city, and and just like the great food that you can get, whether it's the Willow and the gastropub experience during beer weeks, or just heading down over to Terroir and seeing how expansion of local employees from restaurants across the city have popped up in areas like that on Folsom. Pretty amazing, but yeah.
Super. Christian,
Yeah.
you get to close us out.
Yeah, I would echo what everybody else just said, but I'd also add the arts and cultural institutions, SOMA Arts, St. Joseph's. I mean, we've got some really great kind of foundational arts anchors that I think can lead to a broader kind of appreciation for the neighborhood. So yeah, it's the arts and culture for me.
Misha wrote in the chat 10 SF. I'd have to strongly +1 that one. So that's a great one as well. This has been super fun. Desi, Bob, Harold, Christian, Joaquin, thank you for taking the past 45 minutes to chat with me and Boz. We sincerely appreciate it. And you are all a great representation of what makes our neighborhood so special. So thank you. Kicking it back to Boz to close us out.
Adam, thank you so much. That was so insightful. I learned so much. I thought I knew SOMA, but I don't. I learned so much. But as you can all see, SOMA is not your traditional merchant corridor. It's not one strip. And that's the beauty of it. There are so many pockets of activity all over. And, you know, the panelists have mentioned their favorites, and there's so much more to discover. And by the way, with the Folsom Street Fair, there's actually a Folsom Europe now. So it's scaled up to Berlin. So there's a Folsom Berlin. So this is amazing for the San Francisco brand, and showing what our culture is and what the brand of San Francisco is to the rest of the world. So in closing, I want to thank you all sincerely for attending today's webinar. You've all mentioned this. This is a time of renewal and growth. Through dialogue like this, we can develop more meaningful collaborations to help us promote innovation and get us through this crisis and possibly future crises. We encourage everyone to get to know your community and get involved. And individual actions count a lot. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Voss. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.